Hey y'all, it's Michael and this is VEDA day 3, I think? Yeah. Today I wanted to talk about like the physical books that I read during February. I only posted one part of my review, which were the audiobooks. I'll link the video right here somewhere around the screen. In February, I actually read a great amount of books, which was great. I also did some individual reviews, so I'll link the videos also in case you want to check those out. I started reading a short story every single day, and the first book that I chose was Where I'm Calling From by Raymond Carver, and it was actually really interesting. Go check out the video in case you want to know more of my thoughts. The second video that I did was about Crick Crack by Edwin Danticat and Dance on the Volcano by Marie Vieux-Chevet, translated by Kiyama L. Glover. I talked about these two books together because they're both set in Haiti, so check them out. I actually enjoyed both of them. For Read So Lit, hosted by Dee from Brown Girl Reading, not dreaming, reading, was Bedrock Faith by Eric Charles May. We also did a live show on it, which was really fun. I'll link my video and then the live show in case you want to check it out. It's actually really fun. So yes, those were the physical books that I did an individual review on, and so today I am going to talk about the other physical books that I didn't have a chance to talk about. The first book I want to talk about is an incredible book. I wanted to do a full-on review of it, like of individual book, an individual video of it, but I didn't have a chance and time is getting the best of me right now. But that book is The Master and Margarita by Mikhail Bulgakov, translated by Richard Pavier and Larissa Volokshansky. First off, I bought this book at a independent bookstore in Atlanta. I saw this from Adam's channel, and it just is a beautifully designed book in general, and I'll talk about the design because it's kind of important to the book. So it really called to me, and so I wanted to pick it up. And let me tell you, this book is the one to beat so far. It is my first 5 stars that I gave this year. It is incredible. Let's say it again, you guys. It is incredible. This book was fan-frickin-tastic. So let's talk about it because I've been wanting to talk about this book ever since I finished it. The history of the book itself is actually really interesting. Bulgakov actually passed away. He knew he was not gonna... Bullet! He actually knew... Oh my god. I'm doing a book review here. He actually knew that he wasn't gonna see the book published because he was gonna pass away. And his wife, I wrote down her name, Yelena Shilovskaya, was the actual one that was actually the one that published it. Novel, it talks a lot about the government, and you can tell why it was banned by the government. This was during Stalin's reign. There is 2 timelines, and one is essentially about during like biblical time, and the other one was then current Russia. But then the timeline with the current time in Russia actually has 2 plots. There's like this love story involving the master, and it all starts basically because Woland is his name, but he's the devil. He actually comes to Russian Day. He comes to Russian Day Russia, and he starts to converse with this writer. They follow the misadventures as all hell breaks loose, figuratively and literally. This book has so many like fantastical, magical things going on. There's like a talking cat, there's like a magician. It's kind of jarring because it has all of these like several plot lines and then these 2 timelines going on at the same time. It's covers so many themes, like so many themes. You can literally write a book about those themes. At first it's really jarring, but then there's this point where it literally clicks with me in the sense, and I say that in the sense because these themes and this jarringness of all of these various plots and this 2 timelines going is that it starts to almost seem as though it's going on at the same time, even though we have these 2 different timelines. And it's fantastic how he's able to weave these 2 timelines together, and then at some point it is just so eye-opening and like a revelation on how the story wraps up. And I loved it so much. I really enjoyed all of the satirical points that he's making. This also has to go with the translation. Thank goodness for the appendices in the back, and the notes, because it really put some light into all of these things that were going on at that time. Because I'm gonna be upfront with you, I'm not too familiar with like Russian history, and it's great that the notes were also there to help, because they really do give a great context of what is going on during that time, and it also gives a great context of like a lot of the biblical references that the novel makes. While it's also really jarring, the translation has this whimsical and like really quirky, funny tone to it. Oh my gosh, this book was really funny. There were moments where I was really laughing, and it was great how it was able to portray something that I was not that familiar with, especially the part about censorship. That was really funny. And it really, I think that's what makes a really great classic, is books that these books were written so long ago, but it's the themes and what it covers is about, and the themes and that the things that it talks about really do transcend time. Some of the themes that it really, like the big overall theme was what I got anyways. Technically, Satan here is really evil, but I really enjoy how he shows the evilness of the modern world during that time. Because when the circus, bro, when the circus part happens, it is so cool. Like, it is amazing. There was this moment where I was like, wow, these people are still so greedy to this day. And this theme of like, what is good, what is evil, exactly how do you define that, is it also has this really gray line, but it also has this really broad, it really also does have this black and white. Because while in the end there are some things that we all universally claim as good, and we also universally claim as evil, there is that middle, that gray line where it really does start to blur. While it talks about all of these complex themes, I was surprised how approachable the actual book was. And again, that is due to the notes, because I'm glad that was there. The translation is really great, and the love story on this, I was really enjoying it too. And back to my point about like great classics, I noticed that this book, that there's an anime that was really influenced by this book. It's called Blue Exorcist, or the Japanese title is Ano Exorcist. Wow, let me just say that right now. Wow, because that anime is really influenced by this. So if you watch that anime and then you read this book like I did, you'll definitely see all of the nuances. I mean, there's a character. There is a character in Blue Exorcist that is literally the spitting image of one of the characters on here. Actually, a lot. It's actually a lot. And I just also want to talk, like, this doesn't have anything to do with the book itself, like on the inside, but I just want to talk about the book design, because this is actually one of the times when the book design, like all of these things, like this cat, this woman right here with a tear, these horses, these right here, these people flying, these, like, all of this actually plays, like, is really relevant to the story, and it was so cool. I was looking at it, I was like, wow. And even this thing with if like these time, like, you guys, these time, like, come on, it's great. I love this. I would highly recommend it. It's one of my favorite books of the year. I really loved it. 5 stars out of 5. I would recommend it. The next book that I read was a graphic novel. It was Astorio Polyp by David Mazzucchelli? I hope I'm pronouncing that right. This is a graphic novel about this character, Astro Polyp, the name of the it's basically he is an architect, like he's an architect teacher, he teaches architect, and this story is basically him like as he does this road trip. It has two timelines. One of them is in the present and then one of them is in the past, and it's like it's gonna converge eventually. First off, what I loved about this was the art style. It is beautiful, and the way that these really bright, vibrant colors is used to symbolize things, it's really cool. And the way that the characters are drawn is awesome too, because it also has this, well, I don't want to give too much away, but it also has this thing where like someone so square and straight and like so many straight lines is symbolized as a person that is like to the point type of person, and then we have like another character who is like more circular and more free. And I really like the use of these the shapes. I really enjoy that too. It gives this layer of like symbolism to the actual contextual story, and it actually does bring up some awesome topics, like a lot of philosophical topics, and it I'm not gonna lie, it did make me think, and I really enjoyed it. I was like, oh, I'm not gonna lie though, some of the themes were really preachy, and there were some, because it's like done by chapters, there were some chapters where it was super preachy, and it was almost like a lesson, like you went to a philosophy class. To me, it didn't really push the story, like the plot in a way. It was just like, and it is really long. I thought some parts would have been cut out and it could have been more cohesive in a way, because there were some long drawn out parts, and the ending to this left me really underwhelmed. I just thought, I was like, throughout the story, as I'm reaching the conclusion, I thought I was gonna get this big, huge revelation, like a philosophical, because it seemed as though that's what the book was pushing me towards, but then I never got that, so I felt some type of way about it. I gave it 3 stars out of 5. The next 2 books are the one that I read for my YA book club. The first one is My Lady Jane by Cynthia Han, Brody Ashton, and Jody Meadows. This is like an alternative historical fiction about My Lady Jane, who was basically like a queen for like a few days, and then something happened to her in the history books, like something disappeared from her. And so this book is basically a look into maybe this happened type of thing, but it's like it almost has this science fiction element to it, like this fantasy element to it, because there's also this plot going on with like there's a lot of political intrigue, and like who's gonna get the crown, who's trying to take over the crown, that type of thing. But it also presents this, people can turn into animals, kind of like, remember that show Animorphs? That show was so cool. I don't know if some of y'all remember that, but that show was really cool. It's basically where they transform into animals, but in My Lady Jane, they're called Ethian. There's certain people in this world where they can transform into like animals, and that part was really cool because, again, Animorphs was really cool. The people that can transform into animals, it brings this almost like a double meaning to it, because the people that can transform into animals are almost looked down upon and shunned to like racism and discrimination, and I really like that aspect. My issue with this book is the second half and beyond, because this book starts off so intriguing and the way that the story starts to unfold, but then it reaches this point where it just like plot, and I was like, whoa, slow down. The book is already long. It could have been longer, and there's just a point where it's just like, So yeah, the second part really killed it for me, and I kind of almost wanted more description, because I think this is just like a personal preference for me, is that when I read about books like set during this time, I want I love descriptions of like clothes, of food, just the scenery during this, like during these time periods. I really enjoy that, and for me that always, hey, I was like, let's pull it. It always like immerses me, and I felt that this book didn't really do that for me. But now this book is done by 3 authors, and I do have to like give a round of applause because while this is written by 3 authors, I could not notice that. Like I didn't notice that at all. The way that I'm assuming that the chapters were, because there's 3 main characters, and I'm assuming that each author took the helm of each chapter. Assuming that's what happens, but it really flowed really well, and it seemed as though it was written by one author, which is really cool. And there is parts in this book, I don't want to give too much away, where it breaks the fourth wall, and oh my gosh, it is done really well. Like, it's so funny. There were parts where they break the fourth wall and actually addresses the reader, and I really enjoyed those parts. I also felt like that wasn't enough because in the second half of the novel, like that I mentioned earlier, they don't do this as often as in the first part, and I'm assuming they didn't do it because the story is going ahead already. It felt like it needed that in the second portion because it felt like that was an integral part of the first portion, so I'm wondering why they didn't do it in the second part, but that just might be, I don't know. I think the second part of this really kills it for me, and I just wanted a little bit more world building. I gave it 2.5 out of 5. The next book that I read for my book club was Stardust by Neil Gaiman. Before this, I had never actually even watched the movie, so this was my first time with the story. This is about Tristan Thorn, and it's like a fantasy, I guess you could call it. Fairy tale, I don't know. He basically has to go on this like quest to retrieve a fallen star and bring it back to his loved one. This book, in my opinion, was just okay. The parts that I really enjoyed was Neil Gaiman's writing. This is what, the second book I read by him? The only other one that I read by him was The Ocean at the End of the Lane, and I think that was it. I really enjoy his writing. It is really fantastical. It's very fairy tale-like. The way he described things, the way that the writing feels really childlike. Like, it feels as if it was written for children, but it has really adult themes in it. So I really did enjoy that part. I think what turned me off on this was just like, I just never felt like blown away. Even at the revelation at the end, it was like a surprise, but now that I'm like doubling back on it, I'm thinking more about it, it wasn't a surprise. Like, it was a surprise, but it wasn't like you know what I'm saying? If you know how this ends, I thought it was like pretty okay, so I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. The last book that I read was Bud Not Buddy by Christopher Paul Curtis. This is a book that I have been waiting to read forever. I always enjoy like middle grade, that like historical middle grade. I always enjoy those type of books, and this one was just not my favorite. I thought this book is about this boy named Bud who basically runs away and tries to find his father after like his biological father after this incident with his foster home. It talks about like black musicians and black jazz players, which was really, yeah, during that time, and there were like pictures in the back, and because it's based on like real historical people, which is really cool. Oh my gosh, the part that I also really did enjoy was there's this part in the writing where Bud establishes rules, like 1, 2, 3 rules about doing certain things, and that part was really cool. But in the end, I just was like, I didn't have this feeling of wonderment and like excitement that I usually get with middle grade novels, and I don't know what it was. This is one of the books where I just can't really pinpoint a particular thing I didn't dislike. It just left me feeling meh? Like, yeah, that's all I have to say about it. I gave it 2.5 out of 5. But yeah, those were the rest of the books that I read during February. If you read any of the novels, let me know what you think about it. Until then, I'll see you guys for tomorrow. Bye!